Occasionally the sales guys bring us out of our office and go and visit the client. The kicker is the people who make really good data guys aren't really personable. They like to sit in the corner by themselves and not really talk to people. And when we do our presentations, we take the words we'd like to say and we simplify it in a way that's actually consumable. The whole point of this podcast is for us to not dumb down the message. We can just talk in the way that we think. We can share our information, and we can just actually be nerds because we've hired the best nerds in the industry, so we can look at our data and have the highest quality data flowing through their system.
I'm Alex Fortin. I'm the CTO of Coldbor Technology. I'm here with Derek Mathewson, our Director of Product, and Craig Bergmann, our Solutions Architect. This podcast is about getting into the weeds of data and going beyond the buzzwords.
I'm part of the Nerding Out crew, and I wanted to be here because I'm tired of going into a boardroom and dumbing down the techno speak to match the audience. I want to speak right to the data guys that are clients and other people in the industry.
I'm here. I'm excited to get this podcast series kicked off and hopefully create something that's really entertaining, and we can talk a lot about what's going on in industry and what data problems we're seeing, and hopefully tie what's happening in the industry with real world problems that we see on frac sites and completions and in the energy industry every day.
So yeah, the reason I wanted to get us together was to talk about a little more in the specifics on our data quality at Coldbor. So in the past, we've talked a lot about the difference between our data sets and what has been done in the industry in the past. And kind of wanted to get us together and talk about why and how our data sets is different. So maybe Craig, you can get us started.
We've got a wonderful operational data set, and the idea of an operations data set or an operational data set is you're live in the frac van on site making decisions. Do we have enough water to frac the next stage? Yes or no? And you just look at a number, and is the number good enough? The kicker is 6 months from now, when you want to run that through AI or a computer or some type of analytics model, the question is, did you actually have that number every second of the stage? And how did it change over that stage? Like how good is the quality of data? How do you make these assumptions that you're going to be good enough? Our data a while ago was a fantastic operations data set, but we hadn't started looking at it as a analytical data set until a year ago when Alex said, hey, we've got good enough data, but is it good for what we think our clients are going to want to do? Like, how can we predict what they're actually going to be asking us instead of just looking at today's questions and knowing that we're good enough for that? So a year ago or so, I had a chat with Alex, and he said, hey, Craig, I want you to shift your mind from what you had been doing and start looking at our data and assume that our data is bad and bring it up to good. How do our clients look at the data? How does the data go into the databases, and how do they actually interface it? Like, what questions are they going to be asking of our data, and how can you tell them that it's in a good state?
And you mentioned AI, and I think I want to stress that point where like the world has changed a lot in the past 2 years, where now a lot of opportunities for our customers and everyone in the economy in general is to be able to put those AI agents, those autonomous agents, through the critical path of like business value delivery. And what it means is we're transforming from a place where, if we take our space in completions, oil and gas, like typically an analyst would look at a chart and would find a way to chart it right on a screen, and then visually be able to recognize patterns. And when it comes to data quality, we'd also be able to tell if something looked off, for instance, right? And so we always had this human kind of in the loop of the analytics before any decisions was made that would change an operation or change course of action. And with AI, you have to get to a point where you have a data set that allows you to run those autonomous agent without having a human in the loop, right? Because that's where you can leverage the value of AI, is to be able to not have to have people to have to chart stuff, look at a screen, spend a bunch of time in that analyzing, and then turn that into action. And so that's also kind of why we kind of started to think about, okay, now if we have those autonomous agent in the loop, how do we make it so that our clients can trust that the data set is accurate and high quality enough that no one has to look at it before an AI model, for example, can start consuming it and learn and train on top of it. That's kind of another use case that we're now tackling.
The kicker is, if you look at Coldbor 5 years ago, our question is, and it always comes to this: is our data good? Well, we're the best, and we pride ourselves on being the best, and we are the best. And we look at ourselves in the mirror and we say every morning, I am the best data gatherer or data aggregator in the industry. But when we look at our operations folk, or we look at our remote technical people, and we say, well, how good's the data? That's great. Perfect. How do you know? Well, I look at a screen and I see a line, and that line has continued. Well, how many lines are you looking at? Like 75. And how do you know that 75 didn't turn into 74 when you're looking away and doing a different activity? And then you look back and your 74 lines are still great. Like this whole idea, this quantification, understanding the word good, what does that mean? Like, do you have all 75 lines? Do you have that for every time frame? If you're getting sample a second, and I quote it because it's quite often not sample a second, it's like sample every 1.2 seconds. How do you know that you didn't miss 5 samples? Or how do you know that you don't have sample a second locally, but then when it gets translated to cloud, it's actually sample every 3 seconds, but we can't see it? How do you identify that these lapses in data quality aren't happening in your system?
Yeah, or that you have a single decimal point instead of 3, and your analysts downstream after the job will have to have that level of granularity to make their analysis, right? Another example of we're running an operation and we're getting the data in real time on site, and we have people running the frac on site, and now they're getting the data in real time, and you have maybe you had the latency 2-3 years ago of 5 second on the cloud side. Now, the moment you start running your operations remotely, now that 5 seconds is not good enough, right?
That's right.
And so the very definition of what makes the data set good and good enough constantly evolving, right? And it's constantly evolving, and we're kind of working towards all those new use cases as well that are kind of popping up as we work through issues that our customer are facing.
Well, and thinking about that, like bringing it out of the industry for a sec, a couple of years ago, we went hybrid, working schedules, remote, etc. I don't know if any of our audience or if you guys have had a Zoom call where the mouth and the audio hasn't lined up by a second. That actually is like a latency issue that we're trying to deal with in frac and remote data with gigabits of data per minute. Is that 1 second latency between, I think it's real time, I hear real time, but my eyes are seeing a different story. It's so hard to call remote operations. It's so hard to have a Zoom call with a person that's got a 3 second latency from mouth to ear. Everyone cuts each other off. You can't make the right calls. You can't have the proper operation if you're not following suit.
Yeah, talking about where the data quality issues and where AI is going in the industry, I think we're seeing in the last few years pumping times going up across the board, across completions, and now we're starting to see companies popping up that are in the AI space, doing real-time subsurface analysis, stuff that's doing more things on the reservoir design side of things. And as we work in the industry and looking at these data problems, building these AIs and having a good data set to train these models in different basins is still not quite there, right? There's a lot of manual entry that's being done out there, and just the same data problems we're running into, and we're trying to tackle from a automated standpoint to clean these things so less people have to be involved to get a good data set out. Everybody else is tackling these same problems, but they're focused on the analysis. They want to create a model that does something, so they're going through these manual ETL processes, whereas we're focused on the actual data pipeline there of cleaning the data and just working the data problems and the cleaning of the data and QCing or whatever issues come up there.
That drags us back to what Coldbor is, right? I mean, essentially, all of our history, what we've been doing is that we've been basically creating an abstract layer on top of the frac operation and making it digital, right? And we had operational client and we have data science side client. And now as frac is evolving and as new data sets coming in faster, more, we're evolving with it and providing that layer of that abstraction layer for anyone in or outside our customer's organization that needs to be, to read and to execute or take action based on the things that are happening either in real time or even like post jobs. And that's kind of like, that's the whole purpose of what Coldbore is doing out there, is to generate that digital map of the frac operation and enabling people downstream, either at our customers or their partners, to be able to bring in new technologies and to bring in change and to bringing automation or improvements on our clients' wells.
So how do you see the data moving over the next couple of years? Like what things are the customers going to be applying against our data?
Like, I remember when the first time I used ChatGPT was November of 2022, right when it got out. And I remember having a very special feeling. It's probably like hadn't really feel the step change in technology like that since the first time I touched an iPhone, probably like in, I don't know, 07. It must have been.
Where they did the pinch stuff.
Yeah, where like, oh wow. Like, and a touchscreen that was so responsive. Like, we had a touchscreen at the time. We were just
yeah, and inductive touch,
like,
capacitive touch.
Like, I had my BlackBerry with the roller on the side, right, because that was much better than the touchscreen, right? So since then, you know, those models so impressive, and but a lot has changed in the last 2 years. And what we've seen is recently Llama came out. It's an open source model from Meta. And so at first, you know, ChatGPT and OpenAI and all these guys, like, they're all kind of closed source model that's like, well, yeah, you just ask a question, you know what the inputs are. And then more and more, like, people have come up with those open source model based on the same technology. Recently, I guess my point is, at the beginning, the models were really what was the differentiators, right? Like, OpenAI came up with a model that no one had anything close to, but quickly, in like a span of 2 years, everyone came up with a model. So much that Facebook or Meta elected to make their model free. Like, you literally like use Meta's model. It's open source. Like, you can get it going on your computer, whatever. And so we're seeing a transformation where the models now are not even the differentiators between the company. It's the data that you have.
When you say model, what does that mean versus data? Like, I haven't read up on this.
So the model is basically like, it's the engine, right? It's like you have a model and you get to feed it data that the model will train on. And then the result output of that model will be what you will use to ask it questions, right? And so that model that we're talking about, that engine, if you will, at first OpenAI came up with that engine and people were blown away, right? But now Meta still has that engine, so you can just feed it data, and it's gonna generate an output that you can interact with.
Got it.
And so, like, the most obvious example that we've seen on how the differentiator is really the data is recently OpenAI acquired the rights to use Reddit's data. And so it's not Reddit that paid OpenAI to use their models, right? It's OpenAI that paid Reddit to use their data. And so, like, it's really kind of like this differentiator now. Like, it's no more the models. Like, the models, like, a lot of people are working on different models, and you can really get that easily for free. But the data that you have in order to create the output of those models is what's creating, making a difference between companies. And so
how did the Reddit data look? Like, how did that help?
That's a good question. I mean, we know that Google's used Reddit's data, and it had some mixed results, let's say, in terms of how much how great the search engine was performing based on just using Reddit's answers to. But I guess the point is more of like the value now in the world of AI is not tied as much to the models. It's more tied to the data. right? So like, you can start a company today, and if you have data, you don't need to like hire 16,000 engineer to create an AI model engine, right? While the opposite is not true. And I think that's kind of like what's been the real change in the industry in AI over the past few years.
Like maybe that's true in large language models. So like something like Reddit where you have, I don't know, these billions of people posting and commenting. Is that true in the other industries? Like, I guess maybe it is true, right? We see like in medical as well, like them buying up like what's that where you can get tested and get your DNA test. And
Oh,
like,
23andMe.
yeah, like big pharmaceutical company bought them. I think there's the ones with the pet DNA thing. They're getting bought out as well. It's very similar aspect. But I guess it's true in pharmaceutical LLMs. Like, are you aware of it in other industries or seen that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of the example you've seen out there, and I mean, it's really, and it makes sense as well, right? It's like, and going back to data quality, and you were asking the question about Reddit, like, and this is where like the data and the quality of the data starts to make a lot of has a lot of importance how you run your model, right? Like, man, the only example that I have in my mind is the one that I just talked about the cockroaches. You can look at. I'm gonna let you just search that up yourselves. But the thing about those models though is that any data that you're gonna feed it, it's gonna take as gospel, right? And this is kind of like where we're also making a difference in our industry, where it's like we can provide this data set that has multiple ways to self-check, self-correct, and create this gate before like you. So if you have you're using Coldbor data as an input, right? You have that gate in front of the rest of whatever you're doing on your side of the world or on your side of the operation. And that's not necessarily the case with a lot of our competitors, or if you just take the data straight from like a comma separated value file and stuff like that.
That's right.
So what are some of the big data problems that would come from taking the data from a CSV and just trusting that?
So there's a lot of, I mean, there's a lot of times that comma separated value is mislabeled. We've seen that like endlessly and a million times. But once you have enough of those data sets into your organization, it's actually fairly easy to be able to flag that really quickly.
And are you able to fix that like in real time, or is that, or post analysis? Like, can we go back and fix old data sets for people?
Yeah, we can definitely fix old data set. And I mean, depending on like how correlated the data is between the like a well labeled and a mislabeled data set, it can be fast or somewhat slow depending on how correlated the data sets are. But there's all sorts of ways to, that's not generative AI, like that's just plain old boring machine learning models from the 2010s, way back when. Right.
That's truth tables.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's a lot of calculus, statistics, essentially. That's all it is, right? Yeah, so that's something that we're actually already doing inside our organization to support our data quality.
I think I've got another meme queued up for today. The thing is I keep watching, or the kids have these YouTube shorts, or I see them however I see them. Definitely not midnight every night.
Yeah, not on TikTok.
That's right, not on TikTok. But I see these things, and it kind of got brought to my attention. The way I look at these is different than other people. So I start sending out industry specific memes, or I see little clips that actually apply to our business, and I thought we could do a little short. Like, hey, let's react to a meme. So what do we have today? We've got this wicked automated system, and then reality comes and throws a stick at it.
That's actually a lot of what our work has been in the past few years. Right, we have this very fancy system, and it seems like the field or operations find new ways to throw a spear into the rotors.
Yeah, we feel dumb.
And we're like, holy fuck.
We feel stupid for not designing a rotor that's stick proof.
Yeah. And then it's like, okay, well, we need to put a cage gun around the rotors, I guess, now.
That's
because
right.
Spears are being thrown at it. That's a new data point.
Nobody put that in our requirements
Yeah.
document.
That's true. We've seen the journey with the field with our data, right? Where I think it's improved a lot over the last few years, right? Working with the guys in the field, where first there was this feeling of maybe Big Brother a little bit of like, hey, we're tracking things we haven't tracked before.
Yeah.
But I think now we've heard a lot from guys in the field that they like having the system there, like seeing the visibility on stuff, what's going on, and they realize it's not Big Brother, it's just optimizing and trying to find efficiencies and make things work better.
Especially as we've started to replace some of the stuff that they had to input manually constantly, right? So that they had this constant cognitive load of like, oh yeah, I gotta put this into the well management system, or where did I put my piece of paper? Because when I heard about that, I took a note, and I know that when I'm back to my computer, I need to fill it in. And now you can just forget that and let the system look at the data in real time and handle this timekeeping for you. It allows our customers, employees to deal with things like safety and like the things that they're really truly paid to be doing out there.
Yeah, I can't imagine. What do you mean you didn't write it down when you heard it on the radio?
Yeah.
Is your watch accurate? Yeah, it's pretty good. It's synchronized it a year ago. I'm sure it's fine.
Timex.
It's Timex.
Yeah, we always hear, right, like guys saying that they used to average like 4 hours a day of data entry. It was just incredible for these like highly paid, highly technical engineers on site trying to do the best job, and half their time or a third of their time is just spent doing data entry.
Yeah,
which I'm sure they just love.
25 years of fracking, and you spent a third of your day just inputting data into a system with your fingers.
Yeah, and so you round it to the nearest 15 minutes. That 15 minutes we did this operation, or this is approximately how it did, or you eyeball it a little bit. Yeah, that's good enough. And you write down what you believe they're expecting to receive instead of exactly what happened.
And even the opportunity cost of that 4 hours. How much an impact can someone have if they have that 4 hours back?
That's right.
Out there.
Well, and it's downstream. Like I'll never forget standing in a company man or an OSR shack trying to get him to sign an invoice for like 2 hours, just standing there because he's too busy doing his other job to look at and verify my invoice. And I'll tell you, he's not looking at it and actually applying his knowledge against it. Yeah, it looks good enough. Signature, go away. My company invoices. Like that kind of spitball logic is what predicated the industry 10 years ago. That's how it was. Like even following up on an incident report, it's two people in a boardroom with a couple pieces of paper. One guy says, I want to pay you less money. The other guy says, we actually did everything we needed to, and here's your proof. Okay, it's good. We'll cut you in the middle, a 10% discount. They both sign on it and leave. There's no data driving that decision, and it's millions of dollars that are being decided on.
Yeah, there's a lot more art and science for a long time.
That's
and
right.
Maybe even to an extent till today, but cowboy bit art. But I think it's becoming more science based, more optimized, data driven.
We have the means today.
Yeah.
Right. I think there weren't necessarily the means before.
No, when you had to fax in your daily report in the morning, not a really good means to make live decisions on what's happening.
Exactly. And a lot of that has changed, and I think a lot of the industry is starting to realize that as well.
So let's enable it. Let's make it better.
So what's the catalyst of that change in the industry?
COVID helped.
COVID helped. That's true. I mean, realizing how much you could do remotely, and you need less people to be present on site. I think that's something of a realization in every industry.
Mm-hmm. And if you've got a frac van, or you've got anywhere where you've got 20, 25 people working together, one of them gets sick, the whole pad's shut down. So going before realizing remotely, the need to go remotely was present, and technology had to step in and fill the gap with live data sets, cloud streaming. Before 5 years ago, it was a question of how accurate and how live could data be on location. Now, all of a sudden, COVID comes in. Well, location's no longer your target operations audience anymore.
And going back to your question about the catalyst, now that the data is available, I think they're realizing that there's a lot of things that now they can't do remotely or more efficiently, rather than just saying the best we have is that representative out there.
Mhm.
Like that's close to reality as we can expose our organization to as to what's happening on our frac operations. And now that we're bringing this data set with the level of resolution that we have, now we're bringing a different aspect entirely and offering that to an operator. And then a lot of people inside that those organizations are realizing, oh, now new things are possible. We can rely on machines more and more to maintain and track what's going on our frac in the frac field.
Well, and there's a new wave of management that's coming up. Like every time we hear about the next generation, you know, and their operational challenges, a lot of people who are growing up actually want to be present at home. Like the idea of spending 200, 300 days out in the field is a less appealing career. So they say, well, can I do this locally? And also the managers who are being promoted, who are coming in and taking over from the baby boomers and the X's who are now looking to get out of the industry. Those new managers are asking the question, well, what if we haven't been doing it right? Like, how can we change what we've been doing to actually fit what I want it to be? Or they're looking to make an impact. How can I reduce my CapEx, reduce my OpEx? How can I have a more efficient operation? Well, instead of having 20 guys on pad, maybe 10 guys locally. They have a better life, they have better pay, it costs less money for the company, and they have a quicker response to operational changes. Like there's a multifaceted approach to taking operations out of the field and bringing it remotely into the operator's headquarters.
Yeah, so anyone that's interested in what we're doing, please follow us on Instagram and send me an invite on LinkedIn. And same for these guys.
That's right. Like and subscribe. We're not going away. We're going to keep showing up and talking about stuff that matters to us, about technology. So come back here and listen to the next one.
Thanks, everybody.
Nerds, data in hand. We rock the bytes and we'll take a stand. Calculators flashing like a disco ball. Coldbor tech, hey, we answer the call.